All right, I'd like to call the Tree Protection Board meeting to order. It is August 9th, 2021. First order of business, approval of the minutes from July 12th meeting. Are there any corrections that need to be made to those meeting minutes? Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Old business, 1899 Bacons Bridge Road, removal of trees for a new school. I'm assuming we have folks here for that. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Jack Smith. I'm an attorney with the Nelson Mullins Law Firm. I'm here representing the applicant for the school and wanted to, if you indulge me, pass out a little chart of the permitting process so you can see how much progress we have made since we first last saw you in March of this year. Staff have worked with us and our engineers, and we believe that we are ready. Can you hear me?
Just barely, because the mic's not working.
Thank you very much.
Now it is.
Good.
Amazing.
We appreciate the efforts made by you, your attention to detail, and by the staff to make sure that we get the project right. And as you can see, the progress we've made in the 5 months since the project was last year, not only to address all the comments that you've had and to upgrade some of the information in the landscape plan that's ready for your approval, but we're on the cusp, and we hope by the end of the month, by Labor Day, to have all the other approvals in place, because the goal is to get this school started off the ground and able to have students in it by the next school year, the 2022-2023 school year. If we we're already a little bit behind our original schedule. Things always take longer than they need to, we believe, but everybody has to do their job. Our engineers, and we have our engineer here, Kenley Horn, has been very diligent in working with the Corps of Engineers on the flood study issues, making sure the calculations are correct. We're working with the Department of Health and Environmental Control and the Office of Coastal Resource Management on the stormwater issue. We worked very closely with the staff of the town to make sure that we get all the planning information correct, that all of the details, all the engineering information has been trued up and is now ready for approval. It's kind of like dominoes. You know, the first shovel can't go in the ground until all these things are accomplished. Your final approval today will be the setup for the final things to be able to be in place. Without your approval today, we'll likely have to wait until October to get started, because we couldn't get things back on the agenda in time in order to have the September 7th meeting. But our goal would be to start by mid-September if our goal is met of reaching all these different approvals within the next few weeks by Labor Day, as we are planning and confident that we can, based on the staff work that's already been done and working with a consultant. So I think before you today, I just wanted to put in context where your decision is. The Tree Protection Board decision is a very important decision, and we believe that we've met every detail and requirement, and we believe we've got the best landscape plan possible for this site, and we would urge you to approve it today so that we can be in that position and be able to get this school up and running by the next school year. We'd be happy to answer any questions. I think Mr. Salisbury has already been over this before. We have the applicant and his engineer here as well, Mr. Lowmiller and Mr. Warfield. If you would like to have any questions or comments, we'd be happy to help you.
I'd be interested to know what kind of indications you have from the Corps that they'll approve by Labor Day.
The engineers have told me that they've been working closely with them, and the fine points of the calculations, what input goes into the models to show the no rise in flooding is part of it. Another part was the town's final consideration of the Parkway project, and that it would not impede that project. I believe that's correct. Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I can speak to that. With the proximity of this project to Sawmill Branch Creek, which is an Army Corps controlled waterway, because it was an Army Corps constructed waterway back in the 60s and 70s, it requires a sponsor. Us as a private entity can't be that sponsor. It has to be the town. And we've been working with Bonnie Miley to, as Jack mentioned, work through those calculations and prove from a stormwater standpoint that we are not exacerbating anything that's existing and actually improving it from its current condition from a floodplain and stormwater mitigation standpoint. And so we satisfied the town from that standpoint in that our project in the existing condition it works, and then also with the phase 3 project of the Berlin Myers Parkway that we weren't having any downstream or ill effects on that and that approval. And so we've satisfied that. Bonnie has let the Corps know that the town is thumbs up, all is good, and so the Corps is in process of reviewing that, and that was their main hurdle, is that the town as the local sponsor was on board and behind the project, that they weren't just relying on us as a private entity. Confirm that.
So until that permit is issued, you will not be able to do any site work at all, correct?
That's correct. And what Jack did, you speak, but basically all the permits and approvals are kind of intertwined. It's the dominoes have to start to fall on one approval, we'll engage another and engage another, and until we have all 6 or 7 that are on that sheet, we can't do anything. And so it's for instance, DOT, we have approval, but that DOT approval is contingent upon town approval. So that's kind of where we're at in the process.
More to the point of your question, ma'am, we can't really guarantee the Corps will meet our deadline, but in working with them like we have with Bill and the town staff, we know kind of where the last things are. We know they're working on it, and we believe that they will be able to make our schedule based on those communications between the professional engineers and the agencies and the staff.
But you have a number of other approvals to meet before that as well.
Beg your pardon?
You have a number of other approvals to meet before then as well, right?
Well, they're all contingent on each other, basically.
Right, okay.
The town, the OCRM DHEC stormwater permit, the flood control, once they all get lined up, but we won't be able to get any permits and get started on anything until they're all in place, including, but what's different about the Tree Protection Board, this is a public board of the town, and your vote is required before the staff can issue a permit. And so your vote is not us can go to work tomorrow. Your vote is staff, when everything's ready, they can go to town, because we met your requirements in the Tree Protection Board, the 8.3 of the tree ordinance, in order to make sure the landscape plan meets your requirements, and we are making this land as good as we can for the future post-development. Are there any other questions or concerns we can address?
How confident are y'all that the plans that you present today are going to be the ones that you'll be following if you get the permission from us and other folks?
I didn't hear the first part of your question.
The plans that you've submitted so far, I mean, how confident are you that those will be the plans? I mean, you
We're
think?
very confident.
Okay.
We're at that point where really it's the details on the calculations for the stormwater flooding. That's really the final thing. If you think about the old phrase garbage in, garbage out, the engineers and the software people are looking at the model. What did you put into this to get this output, and making sure all that's accurate and as best as it can be. And so we're at that kind of quality control level of that final part of that study. Now, the Corps of Engineers wetland permit for the road DOT fill is ready to be issued as once the flood study is issued. Once the flood study is issued, then the MS4 can issue. So we're really just asking for your final approval so it can be like the rest of them, waiting on staff to issue once they have everything in their hands.
Which one of these permits do you anticipate to be first? I mean, which domino first, do you think?
The Corps of Engineers flood study approval. That's really, most people are waiting on that.
We've been waiting on that for a long time, haven't we?
Yes, ma'am. We don't question the time the Corps of Engineers takes. We just try to help them along with it. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yes, I have more than questions, I have concerns. This thing's awful loud. Excuse me. How about the landscape plan? We can't address even, and I can't personally address the engineering features, although I have some curiosity about the whole layout of this and accommodating the cost of the number of trees that will be cut. In fact, everything in the back, just a big swath laying everything open. And I think I can speak for everyone else, really don't like to see that happen unless there's really good compensation, mitigation for that, which you have done number-wise beyond our expectations or requirements. So that's good. The landscape plan in terms of species composition is impressive. I wish whoever it is luck to find all those things. I'm not sure. There's some really good stuff in there. My biggest concern is, as I look at this drawing, the earthwork will be to the 165 side of the sewer easement. Is that correct? All the swale creation is going to be on the 165 side of the sewer easement.
Yeah, I can speak to that. It's going to be really everything from our property line, which is on the other side of the sewer easement, towards 165. And we've coordinated that and that easement with CPW, Public Works, and they are okay with that.
Will you be adding or subtracting from the sewer easement?
We'll be subtracting. So in essence, what we've had to do on site is cut down the grade in most areas outside of our actual the school building footprint, so that we can raise that school building up high above out of where any floodwaters may be. So we're over excavating, for instance, in that sewer easement area, to then be able to build up the building footprint area.
And where all the trees are now, of course, is this side of the sewer easement that we visualize from 165, correct? So they're all gone. All that soil will also be removed and sent to the center of the building plot to support the building. Is that correct?
Sorry, I missed the
The
first
soil from where the trees are sitting, that's gonna all go to the process of building and in consort create the storage capacity of that ground.
Correct.
And then you have this wonderful assortment of trees that are gonna be planted there. If there's no amendments, like replacing topsoil,
So
I see, again, if you put the trees in, you have satisfied our requirements, but it will be a nightmare keeping them alive, for the duration.
And to address your point on the topsoil amendment, one of the things that we're proposing to do with our wetland impacts is taking that hydric soil, stockpiling it on site, over excavating the areas where we've got the trees, and then placing that hydric soil mix back in to help
Good.
with that growth and to help with that establishment. Because it's not our intent nor the owner's intent, to your point, to plant any trees that don't survive, and then we've got to go back and
Right, exactly.
replant them, because that doesn't benefit
No,
anyone.
not by
So-
nobody. And that's also true for I forget the term for it, the deposit area in the far left corner of the property. What is it? Could you have a name for that? What is it?
The compensatory. floodplain.
Compensatory,
Yeah.
okay. Same thing's gonna happen there because you've got to do some excavation there.
That's correct.
Okay, because I remember asking a question last time, how deep do you think, what's the maximum depth you might be excavating in the area? And I heard something like 5 feet. And I know what's waiting for you at 5 feet in the terms of compatible living conditions for a tree, and it's not much, so.
Yeah.
Do you have a proposed depth of the topsoil you will be replacing?
We've called out 12 inches of depth for that. We felt like that was an adequate stripping of the existing kind of hydric soil, topsoil
Right,
areas, and then use that as an amendment for the proposed planting areas.
How far above the moral will you be, the moral?
Pardon?
The layer of moral down there, the hard compact moral? How high above it will you be?
To be honest, I'd have to go back and look at the geotech report to see exactly where that that kind of strata is in that particular area. It'll be, so we're doing 12 inches over excavation, but that's, if it, dictates that there's further, then we may have to do further.
Because the marl's right at the bottom of the canal now. The canal bottom is marl, so it's very, very hard. You can't hardly dig in it, so a tree wouldn't survive down in that marl at all.
Yeah.
It would only be growing in your 12 inches of soil on top, and that wouldn't support it wind load or anything.
Right.
So it might need a bigger excavated hole out for each plant, each tree to make it survive.
Yeah.
And be,
And to clarify, on the trees, for those tree areas, and you can kind of see it in the details sheet L205, we are showing, around those root balls and plantings that it's going to be more than that 12 inches. The 12 inches of topsoil mix are really more related to just superficial plantings. Anywhere we need to go deeper for shrubs or trees, then we're over excavating those areas to allow for that root ball, and then at least 12 inches beyond that.
I didn't see any of that in your plans. That's the reason I was questioning that.
Okay.
That would be advisable, though, to give them all the help they can get, particularly with the white oaks, for instance. A large number of them, which I was very impressed with their presence, where they are. That's they'll need a little help. It's a deep rooting species, and as Bill just mentioned, windfall, if they don't get their roots able to penetrate in an impervious surface substrata, then they'll be really subject to wind throw in time, as they start to really become what they're supposed to be, not early on, Anyhow, I'm glad that you have considered all that, and I see the diagram here, and if they made, the holes maybe a little deeper for the large hardwood trees, that might be better for them. And so that's just a suggestion. Again, we can only think about this, but as far as the satisfaction of the requirements, you've certainly done that number-wise and species-wise.
I mean, this may already be in your plan, but have you already selected a size of plantings you're going to do for the different species?
Yeah, so it's majority of the trees are going to be 3-inch diameter at initial planting. There are two areas where we're increasing that size. The red oaks that are our parking lot plantings, we're proposing those to be a 5-inch caliber at initial planting, and we've verified with nurseries that they have those available, or currently, when so we felt like there shouldn't be concerned with procurement of those. And then the other bosque elms along that we kind of generally have along the frontage of Bacon's Bridge Road, have those as a 4-inch caliper. And once again, check with nurseries, and they have that size available.
Okay, thank you.
We as a group spoke of your, and this is not a tree, of course, ligustrum that is on the schedule. And is there another choice that could be made on the ligustrum?
I think they removed those.
Pardon?
I think they removed those.
Oh, they did? Okay, then hooray.
So yeah,
We had mentioned that last time, so maybe you did, because we saw that you changed another species in
Okay.
the
Very good.
area where you had sycamore and put in yellow poplar, which was a nice choice.
I approve. Thank you.
Just to address the question of value and long-term, obviously, this is a school. It's going to be a focal point. It's kind of a community center. This developer is going to do the best job and put money where it's going to last. So I think that you'll see with the quality of the work that's already been done, the time and effort spent to satisfy all the agency conditions, including the tree protection board requirements, they will stand behind the project. And this, it has to be successful. There's no reason to go out and throw something down and pretend like it's going to work. You have to put a solid plan in place, and you have to put the money in the dirt in order for things to work. And that's what you see before you. So we would, unless there are other questions, we would sincerely appreciate your final approval today.
Is there any more questions or comments by the board?
Thank you very much for your
You're
time and
welcome.
attention.
Is
Penny,
there-
I'll move that we approve the plans contingent upon, with no trees being removed, contingent upon all the final other permits being issued.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
The motion carries. All right, new business, 305 McDougal Circle, removal of one magnolia tree. Is there? Great. Are you,
We've already called someone to the stand. so
Concerning what?
Perhaps you can wait for this.
are you at 305 McDougal? No. Okay, well,
No, ma'am, I have another issue,
Okay, well,
tree protection.
we can just hold that off for toward the end if that's all right.
There's not a large crowd, so you won't have to wait long.
Good morning.
Morning.
So you're here to ask for permission to remove one magnolia?
I'm a single disabled woman, and that tree is a nightmare for me. I understand it's beautiful and all that,
Yes, it is.
but it's very hard on me. It makes the yard a mess. My neighbors are complaining all the time because I can't go over and take care of theirs. I've been there. It'll be 2 years in October that I've been there. The yard was a total disaster area when I moved in. I actually got Yard of the Month award last month, so I was like, all my hard work is finally paying off. But if I can't take it down, can I at least trim it down?
It looks like it's trimmed very well already.
No.
Beautiful.
I mean, there's pruning options, but I mean, there's rules to the pruning that would have to be followed.
Yeah.
You couldn't just top it and you just couldn't remove more than 20% of the growth on the tree in an annual cycle. So, I mean, that may not meet your expectations. But yes, pruning is available for you.
Yeah.
but you just want to have less leaves on the ground, is that correct?
Yeah, it just.
Okay, I understand. I have magnolias in my yard too, I understand.
I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to be able to take care of my property and maintain it. And I just had shoulder surgery, and I have a lot of physical problems. So the only thing I can do is pay somebody, and that's to be very pricey.
It doesn't have to be raked up or removed every day. I mean, I have a magnolia tree in my yard too, and I don't pick up leaves every day. There are times when the leaves that fall can fall under the tree and not be offensive or unacceptable. And that could be, I mean, I saw that you had some leaves under the tree, and that's fine.
That's how you feel about it. I don't. I feel it makes my yard look terrible messy.
I think the issue we have here for the board is based on the health of the tree, there's just, we're not allowed to approve it based on those guidelines.
Yeah.
if it was something beyond just the leaves falling on the ground, then maybe we could address that. But unless the other board members know or saw something on that tree that I didn't when we went for our visit. I mean, we sympathize. We all have similar trees and stuff and have to deal with the same issues. We have a motion?
Yeah, I agree with that. We can't, that's not a justification in the ordinance for us to remove a tree. It's like sweet gum balls, which are, we've seen more cases about sweet gum balls, I can assure you, than magnolia leaves, but I appreciate the problem. But that, we can't, by definition of what we're able to justify cutting,
How much
taper
can I
to.
take it down then?
Pardon?
How far down can I trim it?
No, it's
When you
more
say
how far
down, what do you
up?
mean, from the top?
Yeah.
None.
Top.
None.
You
None.
can't top the tree, no. You have to go off from the bottom, and if you'll notice, some pruning has already been done on the lower branches. And that tree is so healthy, even with that little bit, you see all the sprouts coming out of the base?
Yeah.
It's making up for what was taken away. This tree is very healthy and vigorous, and the more you take off, the more you're going to get. If you were to prune upward from the bottom, for instance, which would take every bit as many leaves away from your yard as would cutting it from the top,
Yeah.
because it's tapered, you would get a dog hair thicket of sprouts coming off the main bole of that tree, which would be even a bigger pain because they keep coming back. You keep cutting them and they keep coming them back.
And it would not be as attractive as it is
No,
now.
it would not be. So,
Take those off the bottom, somebody could, easy enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are easy to reach at the base.
Kenny, I'll make a motion that we not allow the tree to remove for the leaves deposit on the ground.
A second?
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Yes, ma'am. You can have a tree service come out there if you want and look at it, and they can tell you what they think they can take out of there based on the guidelines for the town.
All right. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
But it is against the ordinance to cut the top out of it. You'll have a fine if you cut the top out. 'Cause that's-
Fine.
Yes.
You will have a
you'll be
fine.
fined if you go cut the top of the tree out. It's against the tree ordinance to top a tree.
We are required to follow the ordinance, and that's it.
I liked it, but I understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next new business is 203 Wickford Court, removal of 1 maple and 2 pine trees. Good morning.
Thank you. I appreciate the work of the board. Somerville and Gahagan, where I live, has remained pretty thick with trees, really beautiful. My wife and I have lived at 203 Wickford Court for about 28 years now. The maple tree started as a nice 6-inch tree about 2 feet off my porch. And today it's pushing 30 inches in diameter and leans way over my neighbor's property. Its roots are attacking his property, and you can see it there, right? And so the roots are attacking his property, and all of the heaviest limbs are right over his vehicle there. I feel this is this tree has become dangerous, frankly. Dangerous to my house, but more dangerous to my neighbor's house. The other 2 pine trees, you can see number 2 and 3 back there. Those are about 8 to 10 feet right off my bedroom where I sleep. Number 2, even though it doesn't look like it, number 2 actually bends over. Number 2 there, actually, you can see it now, actually bends over my house and is directly above my head when I'm asleep. We simply ask that we be able to remove these 3 trees to remove the danger to our property and our neighbor's property. I point out that there's 22 other pine trees on my property, and I believe there are 3 oak trees on my property. So I like trees, but these 3 are a real nuisance and danger to property. Thank you for your consideration.
What is the threat of the maple to your house?
Sorry?
What's your concerns with the maple for your residents?
Well, it's already attacked my my sprinkler system. Its roots have gotten into my sprinkler system, and I had to do an extensive replacement. If you go back, I don't know if you go back to the one where the car is at. Yeah, you can see that hole right there off his left tire.
Yep.
The roots got into the control station and destroyed it. It's the people that repaired it said it'll probably happen again. You know, in the scheme of things, you know, every few years I could spend a few $100s and replace that. But the real danger is that those limbs, I don't know if there's a picture that shows the canopy. There is a really substantial canopy. Yeah, you can see it there. And all of that hangs over my neighbor's vehicles.
They're lucky to have
We
that
saw-
much shade.
Well, I agree with the pine trees. I hate to see it's always the biggest ones. You know?
Sorry?
I say, I agree with your concerns about the pine trees. It's always the biggest ones too. But that certainly is leaning over the house. Both of them are, and if you were to remove one, then one would become less supported because they've been together for years, and that is a factor. So I don't have a lot of, then you do have lots of pines. There's lots of pines in the neighborhood, and Gahagan, there's a lot of other subdivisions we go to when it's really a pleasure to go there. So I have no problem with, personally, I think the trees 2 and 3, particularly in view of the proximity to the house, it is a legitimate claim. I have a little difficulty with the maple tree. We even spoke with the neighbor, and they might have been concerned about the new car that the man was getting. But there's some pruning could be done to take the threatening nature of some of those large branches that go over the driveway. They could be reduced in length, not totally removed, but simply, you know, it's a very healthy tree. As far as popping irrigation lines, yeah, trees will do that. So I have trouble with the maple because it is a healthy tree. It's not the prettiest tree. It's got all the branches and everything, but that's the way they grow. I don't have any trouble with the pine trees. Yeah.
I think your neighbor mentioned that at some point in time, they're looking at fixing their driveway, repairing it completely.
Right.
So they have repaired it at least once. And
I say repair, they're talking about replacing it, I think is what they said, or she said when we were out there. So I think that's probably in the future for that, because she didn't say when, or even if they were going to do it. Right. Any more?
so just to go back to the idea of bringing that tree back, can we go to the canopy, the maple canopy? Yeah, so that the limb on the right there that hangs over his house, this really doesn't capture it. You can really, I've studied that limb, and if you take that limb out, there's still a pretty substantial tree there, and it doesn't, you know, it remains random. I like trees that are random, like, you know, the opposite of Bradford pears. And
You got one right
We
there.
agree with you on
this tree, I think even if you take that limb off, that's right above the FORD there in Wickford, I think the tree remains pretty. It's a beautiful tree. I mean,
I agree.
just become
Bill,
a nuisance. That's all.
I think that's certainly doable. Bill?
Yeah, we didn't look at it thinking that, I mean, but I could swing back by there and look at it again and make sure that I wouldn't feel like that would damage the rest of the tree.
Right.
But I feel like that would be a help for them, you know, take some of that danger off and that load off of that side that would be a good option.
Right. And would I need a permit to trim that tree, or
No, you
can I
wouldn't.
just work with
As long as you stay within that 20%.
20%.
20%? Okay. And obviously I wouldn't top it. So
Good.
All right, so you're gonna, so just so I understand, the pine trees in the back, you'll approve, contingent upon your vote, you'll approve, removal of those trees, and then I can trim this tree and remain within the ordinance. Right. I thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we're going to
Thank you.
vote.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll swing back by there and look at it too.
Okay,
Just-
yeah, you were out there. a few
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Yeah.
we all were there. We all saw it. We came by and,
Oh, you were all.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
yes,
going- Yeah,
A couple days ago, right?
yes.
So we saw all of this. And it's a beauty to have the pictures so we can discuss
Thursday.
it here. But no, we saw it. That's a healthy tree and that's a big branch. And I believe that tree could handle removing that. But I'll let the arborist take a look, an official look.
All right, does anyone make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we allow the 2 pine trees to be removed and the maple to be inspected for the ability to prune to lessen the threat to the neighbor's yard and vehicle.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next one, new business, 117 Smythe Drive, removal of 1 pine tree. I'm assuming we don't have a landowner here. So Bill, you want to talk about that tree?
I'm trying to get there.
That's fine.
Okay, she did complain about termites in that tree. This tree has been up to the board before. It's a very healthy tree. It's 20 feet or so from the house. Its load is away from the house. It had some infection, some bugs or something in it, but they pulled most of the bark off of the outer bark off the bottom of the tree like they had been looking at it. But termites don't eat a live growing tree. They eat something dead, and this tree doesn't have it dead. So if termites were, I didn't see any signs of termites, they would have been in the bark, maybe the bark that they had pulled off. So.
And we did look when we were there or anything like
Yep.
termites and didn't see evidence of that.
And I concur with all that information. Do I have a motion on the tree?
I move that we deny removal of this tree.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next new business will be 110 Horseshoe Bay Court, removal of 2 pine trees. And no one are here, so Bill, if you want to,
We were not able to get in that,
that's right, we were not even able to
To
get
get
to
in
that.
that backyard because they had dogs in the backyard.
that were outspoken.
They were, we could see them through the fence easily, but I went back there with the owner when I first, went over to deny the trees or send them to y'all, and it was, they were healthy. I couldn't find anything wrong with them. They're way back away from the house. I didn't see any problems with them. He said something about maybe putting a pool one day, but I told him you need to have a pool permit before he could, use that as an excuse to remove these trees. So as far as I could tell, they were 2 healthy trees.
Well, based on Bill's assessment and the fact that we could not gain access, I move that we deny this permit. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Yes, sir.
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jeff Kernay. I live at 106 Hyacinth Street inside White Gables. I've been a resident here in Somerville for 17 years, and I have watched with great dismay how the trees along the Central Avenue have been butchered by the Lewis Tree Company, who has been employed by Dominion Energy. I stopped one of the trucks and spoke to them at length, and we even called the police just to see if I could get them to just stop trimming this tree. If you look at this tree that is directly across, let's put it this way, if you leave here and just before you get to White Gables, you'll see a kind of like an open field, and then there's a little street down there, Harvey or Harvest or something.
Yes.
Directly across from that is a tree that's probably 200 plus years old. In the 17 years I've been here, that tree has never taken out a power line. Never. And this company has butchered a number of trees directly in front of White Gables, but especially this one. It went from being a big bowl, very, very healthy, to now shaped like an L. It's absolutely saddens my heart because I love trees, and this tree did not warrant that kind of cutting. When I spoke to the foreman on the job, he told me that Dominion Energy told them to cut 8 to 10 feet on either side of the lines and within 20 feet above it. These people could have cut a U shape like this that would have satisfied that easily. Instead, they kept cutting and cutting and cutting, and now it's an eyesore. And most importantly, I kind of fear for the life of the tree. It'll probably survive it after it comes out of shock. But the bottom line is that they've made the area in front of White Gables ugly. They've also cut the tops off a number of trees directly at the entrance of White Gables, which was unnecessary for the power lines. If you look at other trees on White Gables, you'll see. Go ahead, I'll wait.
You're good. Go ahead.
in front of White Gables because I feel the same way you do.
Do you have that tree?
I couldn't
pictured in there?
agree,
have the big tree that you're talking about, I don't think.
Oh, you
but
must
I got-
see it.
but I couldn't agree with you more.
It is horrendous. I mean, it is horrendous. Go out there, it looks like the Nightmare on Elm Street
I'd
with
rather
regard
them,
to the tree. Yeah, but that doesn't show, unfortunately, sir, the tree itself. I have pictures, but I didn't bring.
I would rather they just, I would rather they just take the tree out than to leave it like that.
Well, it is an arborist standard to do those trees like that.
Say it again?
There's arborist standards that allow those trees because that's the way they're doing it. Now, I didn't say that one, but that's the way it is.
Went to,
Tree over here,
a meeting with,
and they have
CENG.
butchered that tree. It now
Back
looks like a great
some
big
years
letter
ago.
L.
And they essentially told us that
There it is.
bottom
Now
line,
that looks like
bottom
it's
line,
actually
they
before
didn't
they
make
actually
those words, but
before they
that's
got to
what
it. And you can see that it's a
No, that's not
substantial
exactly
tree.
true, but
What you don't give me your spin.
Well, you go now, and that tree is
well, they have to go into an agreement with the town before they can do anything.
On each side.
That's part of the
But
ordinance.
now it's even more. It's to the point where they're going down Central and probably other streets to do the same thing as a result of Dominion Energy's requirement that the power lines be cleared of trees. However, the point is, I'm here to try and stop further butchering of the trees in Somerville. I moved here 17 years ago because I fell in love with this town back in 1978. And I finally got down here in 2003 and have been here inside White Gables since that time. I feel for the trees. I'm a tree lover. And I have, since I've been 2 or 3 years old, I love climbing on trees. I love trees. And to see this destruction is something that you need to all go down and take a good look at. I mean, literally just drive down there, park across the street on that little road and look at what they did to this tree and go out and actually look around at it. And you will see the destruction. My request would be to somehow tell Dominion Energy that they do not have the right to butcher the trees in Somerville and use this tree as one example because it is so egregious. I don't know what else to say other than my goal is to preserve the beauty of Somerville. And what is the label of the greeting center? Somerville in the pines.
Well, I think we're fighting I think it's a federal law that the power company has that they can prune trees that far from the power lines. And so they got,
Who is this, sir?
I think it's a federal law that power companies have.
But who was petitioning them?
Bill, I
It's
don't think
FEMA.
that's correct.
It's FEMA. This was explained to me some time ago, and it doesn't make it any better. Because West Ashley, Mount Pleasant, Charleston has been through and seen the same thing you have.
Yes.
If you've been down there, you'll see the results of the
Horrendous.
tree company. And you talk to the tree people, these are my orders. And we're paid to do this is what we have to do. You talk to Dominion, this is what we have to do. I made a bunch of calls about this herbiciding they did next to the poles. I'm sure you've seen that around brown leaves and everything.
Oh, yes.
Tiny little trees that threaten nothing.
And they're dead.
And they can do this, and I complained. I've talked about it with the mayor, and there's very little we can do. FEMA has a Damoclean sword over the head of, by virtue of financial incentive, to my understanding, to the local municipalities, that they're not going to get help if they don't keep their lines clean the way they want them to. And this is where this came from, is the best of my understanding.
Wow.
And that's a tough one to fight. Now, in the case of your big tree, if they exceeded what they actually had to do, that's worth a complaint. And that's worth going as far as you can go.
And I think, sir, that if you were to go down there and physically
I'm gonna
stand
go
there and
look.
walk around it, all of you would see the butchery that was done to this tree.
I'm gonna drive by.
I think they far exceeded their limits by a large margin. There's no way I can measure it. However, to me, what they've done is a lot more than's required just to make a tree safe. I mean, make the power lines safe where a tree is growing up into the power lines. And this is a great example to use. And I think other federal agencies could actually get involved, and the Greening of America, and et cetera, et cetera. There's many tree groups and groups that are environmentally strong. And maybe we can, go past the limits that have been imposed upon us to change it. After all, we're in charge of our community. And I realize there are federal laws, but I'm one to kind of push back in a nice way, but a strong way and a legal way to say, look, this law is old. This law is no longer required. That tree has been through hurricanes that I have lived through here in Somerville for 17 years, and it's never taken out one of the 5 or 6 major power lines that went through that tree. Never. So,
Jesse, maybe you can speak to this, that if I remember the UDO, the utility companies have to provide a plan and follow that plan, and the town actually reviews that plan. And just for full disclaimer, I worked for a power company for 35 years. I didn't work in the distribution side that you're dealing with. I worked in transmission, so our rights of way were
sure,
much bigger and wider, so the impact to a lot of the trees you're mentioning
Sure.
weren't the same. I know that if a plan is in place, I've dealt with that before because I've had to write them for different municipalities. They're following ANSI standards, I'm sure. Now, in this particular tree, did they go further? I don't know. They're going to bring a limb back, and sometimes you say well, you can cut that limb in half and not go as far away from that power line. But the goal is to bring it all the way back to a lateral where it actually helps the health of that tree and for it to recover and callus over and protect itself. So, the companies are following the rules that Dominion has provided. Now, again, did they go overboard on this tree or other trees? I don't know because I haven't seen them myself. But
yeah, I would encourage all of you to, it's only 3.1 miles west of here because that's the entrance.
I think we
to
all know
White Gables.
exactly where it is. We live
You've
around
got
here.
to look at it, though.
Okay.
Pictures don't do it justice, and I took pictures and videos.
There are other trees that have had that same kind of,
Yes, and they are up and down Central Avenue.
yes.
And they
I-
have grown back a
Yeah.
little, but not much.
Surely you must know that we are all in favor of trees by virtue of the fact that we serve on this board. We love trees.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
the name of our group is Tree Protection Board.
When I saw that pop up on my cell phone and it started at 9 o'clock, I hopped in my car and boogied up here so I could talk to all of you and say, help.
Well, I think we all appreciate, comments from the public. I mean, it helps us do our job and
Yes.
understand things we don't see. I mean, can't be everywhere at any given time.
Of course. And that's why I really would wish that all of you, as you have done with this gentleman, walk down there and see it. You'll be astounded. You'll be amazed. I've never seen anything like it. And this tree may or may not survive because of all of that cutting. It has been a very healthy tree. You can see it's got 5 or 6 trunks on it. It's that old.
There are times when I've almost wished that they would go ahead and take the tree down rather than let an eyesore that
Yes,
reminds
ma'am.
me of this
And I
every
see
time I
that
drive by.
Correct. And I see that on Central Avenue all the time. I've seen what they've done, and I have rued those decisions for over a decade. Wow.
I'm with you.
So, in my conclusion, I would ask this board participate in trying to prevent further damage to the trees of Somerville, and seeing if we can go way up beyond what actually is happening or the laws set out and challenge them. And that's the only way we're going to get changes, just like, people petition the US government and the Supreme Court. If we don't do anything, our trees are going to continue to get butchered, and this town's going to not look beautiful.
I've even talked to
thank you.
groups about burying the power lines so that we don't have that.
No, ma'am, and I think that that's probably not feasible at this day and age and the economy.
Right. I was told that it was too expensive
Yeah,
when I investigated.
yeah. I mean, they buried the power lines inside White Gables, and we now have 750 homes. So trees can grow as they want. And I've planted 7 trees in my postage size stamp piece of property, 5 palm trees. I love palm trees. And a whole bunch of crepe myrtles. So my house is very much in the shade, but it looks beautiful because of all the trees.
Good.
So I thank you for your time and patience. If you want to contact me, you have my address now at 106 Hyacinth Street. My phone number is 843-789-0762. That's my mobile number, and that's really all I have. And I'm married with my wife. She's my sweetheart. And you can reach me 24/7, and please leave a detailed message because I check my phone frequently for messages. I'm a retired speech language pathologist, so I have time at my home. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
your
very much.
input. Thank you.
All right, any miscellaneous information we need to talk about? I do want to just bring one thing up. You mentioned about FEMA. I think it's important that we all understand any laws, rules out there that's possible. I mean, I'm very versed in the NERC requirements, the FERC requirements for transmission, but I didn't know about any federal guidelines for distribution lines. So, I mean, if we have that type of information, it's nice to be shared with the group, just so we understand when that stuff comes up. We can, I mean, part of our job is to educate people and them to educate us, obviously, but
Well, I've come to know the Dominion guy that was in charge of everything around here, and I could even get a more specific answer if you would like.
well,
If that's what I'm not sure what you're asking, but.
well, yeah, you mentioned FEMA.
Yeah, well, I
requirement
heard that back
and
a while ago, but when West Ash was getting absolutely hammered in that one subdivision has all those oaks, and they just use that as the, that they sort of have them blackmailed. They will not give the money to the municipalities if they beg for money after Hugo. Well, Hugo is so different. Hugo would have maybe blown that tree down. It didn't because it's still there, but it would have blown that tree down. So all the trimming, all the king's men, all the king's horses, trimming wouldn't have mattered a bit because the damn tree would have come down and taken it out. So, but they really are, there's not enough money to go around. It never is. And that was what I was told, but I can check on that if you'd like.
I would like to know, and I'm going to do my own
Jesse may
investigation
know the
too,
answer to that one.
because I think in my career, I've heard tree companies with other utilities say the same thing, and I know it wasn't true. And they use that excuse. I'm not saying in this case FEMA.
Okay,
I've
no,
I've not dealt with FEMA
You got the
as far as
experience.
trees, but again, we need to make sure we get the right information for ourselves and for other folks. And again, most distribution, we're not going under the requirements that I'm aware of. Now, there could be some state laws, there are in some other states about utilities keeping out of distribution rights away, or they can get fined for that.
If I can't find an answer for that.
Okay.
right?
I appreciate it. Yep. Is there any more discussion? Miscellaneous? All right, having none,
Make a motion, we adjourn.
A second?
second, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, thank you. I won't be here for the next meeting or for the next site visit. No, no.